Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. With me, that's right, Glenn at Alviso.
Hey, Jeff.
Welcome, dude.
It's nice to see some blue skies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We've been talking about doing an Alviso for a long time, and we kind of kept pushing it off. But I figured, we've talked so much about your Dutch races that why don't we do one of these Alviso ones with the blue skies?
Yeah. Let's do it.
I want you to, at any moment, I want you to just to be like, Jeff, this is weird. This is an American strategy, or like this. Like, I would not do this. Like, I just want you to stop me at any moment and just like tell me how it's different in Europe. I think that would be interesting.
Okay, man. Let's do that.
All right. Okay, Glenn, we are a few laps into Alviso, and here are the Thirsty Bear boys. You know that's the team I always look out for. No different today. I have Jerome in front of me, battle scarred from his stint out in St. Louis doing the Gateway Cup, and he's just gonna roll off the front here a little bit and try to be sly and get a gap, but I'm not gonna allow that to happen. So I'm gonna follow this.
That's a smart move, I think, because if you let him slip away, then you have to do all the work, and he's getting a free gap, and that's no good.
Better nip it in the bud, right? Because I don't want him to get 20 seconds up the road. I end up having to chase, and I think there's this misconception because if I remember correctly, I'm gonna roll through here. Yeah, I'm gonna roll a turn here. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, if you're a sprinter, you don't ever pull on the front. But that's actually not true because you want to keep it fast. If I keep it fast, then this discourages counterattacks. The most important thing for me as a sprinter is to be consistent and smooth because that is how I save my legs for the sprint finish. If I were just to like sit up and stay on Jerome's wheel back there, guaranteed that Blaine, his teammate, would have just counterattacked over the top. So I just want to keep that speed, as fast as possible in the 25, 27 mile an hour range or higher.
Yeah, and I think people confuse sprinters with being lazy. Sometimes they are, but I think you're doing a great job in keeping the bike race fast.
So speaking of Blaine attacks, here he comes on my left, and this is why his attacks are so potent, because look, I'm boxed in, and that wasn't by accident. He knows that I'm boxed in. Where am I supposed to go, right? There's no place to go. So he immediately gets this gap. He comes slingshotting from like sixth wheel, and that gap opens up. There wasn't really much I could do about that because he timed it so well. Except by the time I finally can, Max on the left, he wants to jump across too, so now I definitely have to follow this one. But Jerome's not going to do anything. So I do a hard effort here because I want to jump across. I don't want to just drag everybody, right, Glenn? Like, you don't just drag the whole field across. If you're going to try to bridge across, try to go solo.
Yeah, but Jeff, I got to stop you, man. Why aren't guys following you?
I don't know. I mean, I did like 1100 watts, so that's a thing, but people did seem to allow gaps to open up, and there's total chaos behind. So that's what I'm doing right now. I noticed you saw my shadow. I checked back. I noticed that there was chaos and people were allowing gaps to open up. So that's why I'm just pretty much committing to this. 31 miles an hour in a crosswind, everybody has to be doing the same effort, and I just want to force a selection.
Yeah, I think something like this doesn't happen over here. If you attack at that moment, races are much more opportunistic over here. I think that's the difference with American style racing.
So people won't let those gaps open up.
I think they will be on your wheel.
Yeah, I've noticed that on your club races also. But anyway, I end up kind of forcing this selection of about 6 riders, and let's see how that unfolds.
Yeah, man.
So I put in this hard effort, commit a bunch of energy, and this group of about 6 comes together. And in an attempt to keep it fast and consistent, like we talked about earlier, I start taking pulls on the front. Not super aggressive. I just want to keep it fast. But we just have too many passengers in this field who would prefer the attacks and the chaos. And I get it. Like, they don't want to drag me to the finish line. I do like to participate in field sprints. That's something I've shown on the channel quite a few times. But you have to realize that, like, once you start playing the games, you can see, like, right here, letting the gaps open up, skipping pulls and rotation. You have to understand that this is going to be harder for me, but it's also going to be much harder for you because I'm not going to simply just like put my head down and close these gaps with you in my draft. I'm going to wait for a crosswind section. I'm going to slingshot past you. Like, it's going to be harder for everybody. And what's going to end up happening is I'm just going to try to force a selection from the selection. Does that make sense, Glenn?
Yeah, and my experience is it's just hard to drop a sprinter.
We're stubborn.
Yeah, and they have this power profile that you have to catch them off guard or do something, some tricks or to drop them. You know, they're just snappy, and you have to come up with something good to drop those guys.
And as a result of our chaotic, inefficient attack style riding, we've slowed down considerably, and this group of 3 has bridged across. And now I immediately fall back to the tail end of this lead group of like 8 or 9 riders. Glenn, why would I want to do that?
Yeah, so Jeff, this is a great position because you can see what happens in front of you. If the bike race gets slow, then you can slingshot around to attack the rest of the people. You can see where gaps are opening up. And you can see if attacks go, if you want to go with them. So I think this is a great position to be in. And so long as the other riders tolerate you being on the back of the race, then it's fine.
Well said. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And turns out I kind of get away with it. I don't have to do too much work until about the last lap. Okay, Glenn, we are coming into 1 to go, and we have Blaine off the front, which kind of sucks because the Thirsty Bear duo, they're playing it right,
Yeah, and I watched other videos of you, and you know what they are going to do, right?
Yeah, especially in this position. Out of this lead group of 8 that we're still in, this is the way you have to do it. When you're Thirsty Bear and you're the only 2 riders with teammates in this group, you cannot be continuously responding. Otherwise, everyone is going to wait for you to chase because you're the only 2 guys with teammates. So if you're constantly off the front, this is the situation you want where everyone else is scrambling to chase you. And that's why I was forced to do 37 miles an hour, over 1,000 watts with 1 to go. I don't want to do that. And Matt does this funny thing. Matt kind of sprinted across, and I was like, oh, he's going to put in this big counterattack. And it looked like he kind of thought better of it because for that reason that I just mentioned, like Thirsty Bear being the only team with 2 riders in this situation, they are going to chase Matt back almost certainly. And if they don't, I will just wait for the crosswind section and go as hard as I possibly can. Because look, guys, I'm not racing for second at Alviso. I'm going to go as hard as I can to make sure I'm in the front at the finish of the race.
Yeah, and you got a little push at the back over there.
Did you see that?
Yeah, guys are trying to force you to chase.
Yeah, I told Jerome, I was like, yeah, keep pushing me. Let's go. Just keep pushing. We're all having fun out here.
Yeah, it's nice to see, man.
But we're playing games, right? Because we're 2Ks to go, and we are, like, nobody wants to take the front. This group is just too big for any cowboy moves that are going to go off the front. So people are either, like, attacking or just sitting up on the front. There doesn't seem to really be anything in between, and this is so much fun in a race. If you guys are ever able to experience this kind of cat and mouse that happens, where things slow down. I mean, look, we're going 30 kilometers per hour, 19 miles an hour, and everyone's kind of looking at each other. So the situation I don't want is for Thirsty Bear to get off the front again, and that's exactly what I've allowed to happen. So I know Blaine's not going to let me do that. So I'm going to get in front of Blaine, and I find Brian's wheel here in the maroon top, and I am just trying to be a ninja here. Like, I don't want him to realize that I'm in his draft, but I want him to close this down for me. Matt's jumping across. Matt realizes the danger, and as long as Brian here in front of me is going to continue working, like, I'm going to continue benefiting from this draft. This is a bit strange for me, but this is also really good for me, so I'm glad he's doing it.
Yeah, it's nice to see he is just pulling through, and this is a dream scenario for you as a sprinter.
It really is, especially in this headwind. I mean, we're only going 25 miles an hour, but you have to realize that is in a pretty stiff headwind, and I'm in the draft. I'm only having to do 250, maybe 300 watts. And now he stands up, and he's just getting after it. He's closing this gap down for me.
He's bringing
this is
it
great
back,
news.
so yeah, this is a strong move.
This is great news for me, and I'm looking up the road, kind of keeping an eye on that gap. If Brian looks back, realizes I'm there, I'm fully prepared to launch. It would be on the right side, the sheltered side, and I would just try to teleport across to that lead group. But I have a couple of guys sitting on. I see Jerome up there not willing to work, Matt not willing to work. They're sitting up, so we're all back together. And you guessed it, Blaine with the big counterattack. I saw this coming. Before I was even able to get on it, Brian does it for me. He just really steps on it for me again, and I'm just able to stay in the shelter, maximize my time in the draft here on the last lap. This is a total dream situation. And I just fall back. Max and Brian are both doing the work, and then right in front of me is Jerome, the Thirsty Bear sprinter. So I can see that they're not quite able to close it down all the way, so I'm keeping a very close eye on that gap right here. And I want to make sure that it never gets too far away. And right here, it looks a little threatening. So just inside of 300 meters to go, I'm going to hit pause. Glenn, as a sprinter, what do you see?
Okay, Jeff, this is executed perfectly, because you see here the guy in front of you, the sprinter. You box him in perfectly. He doesn't have a space to go, because the rider on the right of in front of you is blocking his way at the right, and you're coming over him with some speed. So he is chanceless. Then you can have a sprint of 2,000 watts, but it doesn't matter anymore because you're gone and you box him in.
Yeah, he has to wait for me to pass him. He doesn't want to go on the right. It's blocked. He has to wait for me to pass him. And by the time I pass him, I'm already going 2 or 3 miles an hour faster than him, which might not seem like much, but with only 250 meters to go, it's pretty much race over.
Yeah, it's game over for him.
So I'm back in the winner's circle. Super stoked to get the Alviso jersey back. Glenn, man, when are we going to have you out here in beautiful sunny California, have you racing against us?
Okay, man, maybe start a crowdfunding or something.
All right, guys, comment below if you want to see Glenn come out to race in Alviso. It would be awesome for you to come out and teach us how it's done Euro style. That being said, man, always a pleasure having you on, Glenn.
Thanks, man. It was nice looking at the blue skies.
Catch you guys in the next one.